Hey mates, here's a part 3 video. I'm basically at the same spot that I was during my part 2 video, but this is going to be on another separate subject regarding the Peace River. So, some of you may be wondering, like, what really makes up a lot of our soil in the state of Florida? Well, I'm sure many of you have guessed sand. And I would say, yes, you would be correct. Absolutely. So, what's neat about the Peace River in particular is you may notice, like, the sand in here is actually very fine. And actually, Florida has its own type of designated soil. It's actually known as Mica fine sand. And that's just named because of region, mostly. Just because I'm on the Peace River, it's not called like Peace River fine sand. It's basically a general name. But a lot of this fine sand really comes from upland habitat. You know, like pine flatwoods or even scrub habitat. And what's so neat about this particular sand is it is so fine. Like, let me just grab some. See that? Look how fine that is. Like, it's very smooth to the touch. Like, there's really no resistance, or it's not as coarse. It's very fine. Probably less than 0.1 millimeters, maybe even less than that. So it is very, very fine. But this type of soil is actually very ideal in Florida for a couple of reasons. So, first reason is it has to do with our plants that are capable of anchoring into it. Since it's very fine, it makes plants such as that of Lyonia, for example, and even some of our trees here, it makes it very easy to anchor itself, as it really does not face any form of resistance. And same goes for any burrowing species, such as that of the gopher tortoise. You know, this is very easy sand to dig. So, that's why oftentimes you'll only find Mica fine sand in pine flatwoods or even scrub habitat, as I mentioned just a moment ago. But yeah. And since the river is always a common dumping point or a drainage, all that sand, you know, even after a storm, will make its way into here. And you could say, like, the majority of this river is composed of fine sand. A lot different than that of Ohio, right? And part of that has to do with the reason that, you know, only a couple million years ago, Florida was completely under the ocean. Unlike my home state of Ohio, the last time that was under the ocean was even before the dinosaurs existed. So, you could say that Florida is still basically a baby when it comes to their soil development. But I feel soil is not highly as mentioned as it should be. Because without soil, we don't have anything. We wouldn't survive without it. We rely on soil for growth of our food, even as a means of providing natural fertilizer as well. And it also has that capability to decay matter that we no longer need. So like compost, for example. That's just to name a couple of things. But then we also have all of our microscopic organisms, such as nematodes, for example. Kind of like these microscopic worms. And they're the ones who really help do that processing of decomposition, which helps restore those nutrients in the soil. So it's like, yeah, we can't live without soil at all, because that is our foundation. Healthy soil indicates healthy biota. So like the healthier our soil is, the healthier our biodiversity is as well. And the better our food quality. And the better our water quality. So I mean, it all highly ties in. But going back on the subject, Mica fine sand is actually known to be some of the finest type of soil in Florida. And so usually, there was a spot I stood at earlier when I did my part 1 video. You got to see a couple of separate layers. And usually, most times, the lower you go into the soil, the darker it becomes. And that's just because there is more decayed matter that has taken place in the past. So that's why usually most times soil down here in particular is darker. And then eventually, once you go deep enough, it then enters into your limestone. But what I'm trying to say is I feel that even though sand is sand is still really what makes up our soil. I mean, even like up in Ohio, like even though it was very clay-like, silt-like, you can still find bits of silica. And it's silica that is essentially the main building block of all of our rocks that exist, and even our soil too. Without silica, we don't have anything. So sand is sort of like that, it's that base material, if you know, like the parent material. Yeah, there we go, that's a better way of putting it. So yeah, you figure eventually this soil here, you give it, quite a few more million years, and it will eventually become similar to that of, say, Ohio's soil, for those of you who know. But it's just so cool. It's just neat knowing that Florida has its own designated type of soil. Haven't really seen anything like that before. But, and by the way, too, I've mentioned it before. It was a documentary I've seen. It's called Kiss the Ground. And it's a documentary about really just the importance, ecological importance of soil in general, and how it actually could help combat that of climate change. Because that's another thing. A lot of our soil is made up of carbon. And carbon is one of those main building blocks of all life. I mean, even majority of my body is made from carbon. That's why usually when someone goes through cremation after their passing, that is mostly carbon that you're seeing as the form of dust. So it's just amazing to me how it's all interconnected. So, all right, you guys, take care. Hope you enjoyed this video, and Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya. Take care, you guys.